Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, parents, students, staff. So I just wanted to give an update for you. I've sent a hard copy of the letter home today to parents. I'll send it electronically as well. But the reason for the hard copy, we don't tend to use hard copy, mostly because as well the cost, that's a huge amount of money, which obviously clearly we'd rather invest in the school facilities for your child. But I felt it was important because having gone through some of the parent mail communications, and we regularly have kept staff, students and parents up to date via parent mail, there's quite a lot showing not read on there, and clearly this is a big concern for me because so much vital information is coming to you. And thank you for the feedback. We've had lots of positive feedback to say that we've been sending out more information than many other schools have been doing it, and so lots happened. We're entering the fourth week of lockdown. And there's clearly been a lot of speculation in the press around our schools going to reopen. And the simple answer is we don't know. I don't think the government knows properly at the moment. Clearly, they are taking into their factors of the death rates, the infection rates, the ability of the NHS to deal with a second surge. And as soon as we know, we will obviously clearly let you know that. There's sort of talk that they're gearing up for some kind of phased return of some key groups or maybe exams for year 10 and year 12 post half term. But again, we don't know. I mentioned the NHS there. Clearly, it's really nice to take part in the NHS clap on a Thursday. And I want to extend our thanks to all our parents, not just in the NHS, but all the wider support services as well, and critical key workers at this time. And you're doing a fantastic job to enable us to deal with this crisis as we go through. There's a couple of things I want to pick up with you today, detailed in the letter, but just for clarity in terms of what's going on. As I mentioned, communications. We'll continue to send out everything via parent mail. We'll also be uploading the information onto the website. Two locations. One, principals' messages. We'll have the updates from me, and also the parent home learning page, which can be found in the contact section, has lots of the information that we've sent out also repeated there. So if you're not sure where it is, please do look on the website to find it. We've entered the phase 2 of our home learning. Now, the fact we're at phase 2 is we've done a huge amount of work, as you know, leading into the lockdown, about 3 weeks of work, getting ready for breaking up from school to facilitate home learning. And we've already learned from that experience. And as we move post-Easter, our biggest concern, which I know is the same as you, is are students making enough progress while they're at home? I know it's really hard as a student to get motivated, as a parent to motivate your child. It is difficult, and the hot weather's not made it any easier, I imagine, for you. But the concern is this, and as one year 12 student put in a recent principals competition article for me, I'm not worried about year 11 or 13, she says, because they're going to get a calculated grade. However, I am really worried about year 12, and the same goes for year 10, because we're not going to get a calculated grade. We're going to be expected to do our exams next year, which is true. Yet we've missed out on so much of this learning. And that's absolutely vital, which is why we've looked at the phase 2 of increasing the amount of content for students, increasing the amount of work, and increasing the contact ability through Zoom, online lessons, support, tutorials, and pre-made learning for you and your child. But clearly, we can do all that and we can push it to you, but we can't be there in the home to force you to do it, or as a parent to support you directly in the home of getting your child to do it. I suppose the motivation, the incentive has to come from the student to understand that there is a real risk in this. There's a risk for year 10 that you will not get the GCSEs that you need next year if you don't get the work done to the required standard. For year 12, it's even more important because actually to get into year 13, there is a minimum requirement that you must have in both in knowledge, in skills, and also in your BTech. If you're doing BTech, you must have passed mandatory units, otherwise you cannot progress into year 13. Now, we've taken that threshold and we've looked and adjusted it, being the fact that you're at home, but that still doesn't mean that you can just sit back and do nothing. If you're not working at home, you will not be able to come back to year 13. That is a real consideration and a real risk for you. It is absolutely vital that you're engaging and you're doing your work. Myself and Miss Bentley will be meeting and going through and looking at those students which are eligible to move to year 13, and also those ones that won't be able to. a consideration might be about actually repeating the year. And already I've had some students and some parents speak to me and say, given the fact we've lost so much learning, could my child go back? And that could be an option, certainly an option for some year 12 students. But it's not as simple as that, really, because actually courses change. And if you're a BTech engineering student and you're thinking, well, do I go back and start again? Actually, the course you're currently on, which is the BTech without exams, no longer exists. So if you were to go back, you'd be starting again as a new year 12 student on the brand new BTech course. Clearly hope with some more knowledge, but you'd be doing a new course with the examinations. If you are interested in and you're considering whether or not a repeating of year 12 is an option, it is really important that you register your interest through Miss Bentley as soon as possible. And the details are in the letter that I've sent to you. That's because we've oversubscribed at the moment externally, which is great, from students from other schools and also for our own year 11s wanting to go into year 12. So there's only a limited number of spaces for those students if we are considering you going back 6 months to obviously repeat that process. But it does mean then you'll be into a year 14, like many of our students often do. But that might allow you to gain some higher outcomes into university. Well, I'm talking about lockdown. One of the things I've sent to all students, and I've sent to parents as well, specifically, is my upset, really, and concerns over some of the behaviour we've seen from a very, very few individuals this week on our new online learning. The word Zoom bombing is something that we've never heard of before, and obviously has come out over the last month of lockdown. But the inappropriate use of students shouting out or posting or seeing things which are completely inappropriate, and frankly, they would not do if they were sat in a class of a teacher. In fact, it doesn't change if you're at home. In fact, it makes it even worse because my staff don't have to do these lessons. They are doing that. In fact, we're doing more online learning and more teaching than any other school that I know. So it's really important that that respect is extended at home as it would be within school as well. Those members of staff are giving up their time. They're working from home in their private environment to bring you opportunities to have learning and to bring you opportunities to have support sessions. It is completely inappropriate. It's completely unfair. And there will be serious sanctions for any students who fail to follow those rules. You're not allowed to share those Zoom links, passwords, logins to anybody else outside the organisation. And in fact, what you will be receiving as students is a link this week direct. It probably will come from Prit Pal Tank, as you know, the finance person who's registered the entire school on Zoom as a Zoom education facility. So please look out for an email from him, which will give you your new registration details. You have to use this email, your AUE email, and this registration link to access your lessons going forward. The simple thing is, if it continues and if there's a further incidents of this type of inappropriate behaviour, I'll be forced completely to cancel all online learning. And this will have a massive impact on you and other students in the school. So we really don't want that happening. So please heed my warning. Parents, if you could speak to your children about the importance of this, and I really appreciate the respect that you extend to other students and to my staff team as well. One of the things that's come up in the news this week is around laptops. I know a lot of you have been suffering because of not having devices or limited devices at home and even limited access to broadband. And the government are trying to deal with this. They understand there's a huge digital divide and the social economic barriers are only going to increase through the lockdown period, with those families and students which have their own devices being able to accelerate ahead of those people which can't access online learning. It sounds great. They've announced that they will do a scheme that will help students, specifically those in year 10. The realism of this is the number of devices. On average, schools are going to get between 8 and 12 devices, depending on their deprivation figures of their school and other factors. We've already been told we're getting 11, which makes us the highest amongst many local schools and other UTCs, but 11 laptops shared out amongst the category of people that we've got there is not that many. We will be supporting and looking at other mechanisms that we can try and do. And for post-16, they're saying it's the bursary. So we're looking at how the final payment of the bursary, along with additional funding, could be used to help support other students with devices as well. So we're working hard on that to see how we can support. There's a link within the letter in the letter that I've sent you for a Just Giving site, which has been run locally via the Titan Education Trust, who are raising funds towards trying to get additional 1,000 laptops into Birmingham, across Birmingham schools, to help your child as well. So if you are able to support charity, please do look at trying to support in that way. We'd be most grateful as part of that time. I want to say happy Ramadan as we start that process, as we move towards Eid, in a very strange period to our Muslim families. I know it's very difficult. I know some of the fundamental features of going through Ramadan in terms of essential prayers, time with wider family is unable to happen at the moment. So I do appreciate that and extend our support to you during this time. As a child going through Ramadan, it's an opportunity for them to reflect, renew their faith, engage in more prayers. I understand breaking fast early in the morning is difficult, and more importantly, often going back to sleep afterwards. But what I'd really request from parents is to support students still getting up and working their day. There's a tendency potentially to think about lying in. There's a tendency to sleep a bit more in the day. It is absolutely vital that all students don't fall behind during this period of time. So please, if your child is fasting, if they're breaking fast early in the morning, going back to bed, please can you help get them up in the morning? Please get them to LRG online at 9:30. The LRG is vital for them to engage with their tutor and for their tutor then to be able to help and support them during this period. Finally, moving back through to judging that progress. Well, a couple of things are happening. I mentioned before exams. Exams will be happening around the first 3 weeks of June, and a timetable will be sent to you. Clearly, we've got two different methods being worked on at the moment. One is an option of exams in school if lockdown is amended to allow some part access to school during this time. All exams will be done at home through an online examination platform, and will provide opportunities for those that don't have the online access. Those exams will be testing what's happened this year. That's important. It will include things during this period of lockdown. So it's absolutely vital that students are working hard and completing those studies and that revision. That information is really important for Year 12 because actually UCAS require grades of your predicted grades by the end of September. So we need to utilise what you're doing this summer along with assessments in early September when you start back in Year 13 to actually enable us to very effectively produce your grade for UCAS. Your teachers will be in contact with you to tell you more about the exams and specifically topics that will be assessed during that period. That assessment will also include information to parents, will also include feedback to you about how your child is getting on during this time, and along with an update from your child's tutor about how they're engaging with their home learning. So it's really vital if you are doing lots at home. And I've heard already some of you are doing fantastic courses elsewhere. I've got students doing different types of learning, online learning, university courses, lots of those free courses around. That is amazing. Please make sure your tutor knows. They'll be looking on Firefly as well. So if you're working away from Firefly, doing other things, which is really valid, make sure your tutor knows. Otherwise, the risk is they will report back into your parents a low work effort, when in fact, actually, you probably deserve to get a high work effort. So make sure your tutor knows through your LRG meetings what you're doing in your time to work through. Ms. Bentley sent out lots of information to Year 12s around the Aspirations programme and how you can be prepping as you move forward now into Year 13 and thinking around those courses and provision into apprenticeships and into university afterwards. So lots going on during this time. I haven't mentioned much then that's really focused on Year 10 and Year 12, but the same applies into Year 9. Year 9, you'll have your exams coming up. We'll continue to set your work going forward and ensuring you've got that transition work really effectively into your GCSEs. Some of the questions I've had from students and parents is around how we're going to deal with selecting options for Year 10. If I'm in Year 9, don't worry about that. We will sort that out. We will give you a chance to see what those options are when we return. We'll give you a taster day. You can try some of those lessons. So there's plenty of time to get that sorted. So do not worry about those options in Year 9. Year 11, 13, I haven't mentioned much because actually most of the videos I've sent out over the last month and my staff have been towards you around the calculated grade, both for vocational and also for A-levels and GCSEs. So that continues to go on. We're currently as part of the feedback consultation to the DFE, so it's still not all locked down, but staff will be working hard on this process of collecting your grades together for the GCSEs and the A-levels. For the vocational, it is still up in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty still. There's mixed messages coming out there there. And what's very clear is if you want to get a really good grade, you need to carry on working on your work. Until you're all ratified off, it is absolutely imperative that you carry on working. Otherwise, there's a risk that the exam board can adjust what they need. There's been talk of 75% complete, but the danger is you've got to be up at the distinction, merit and distinction standard to get those high grades. So please do keep working. Utilise our feedback pages, utilise our emails to come and ask us if you've got any questions, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Stay inside, stay safe, and we look forward to working with you very closely online, but also hopefully back in the flesh as soon as possible. Thank you.